Welcome to part 9 of Tutomania, where I teach you about King Tutankhamun in celebration of 100 years since we found his tomb. Today, let's talk about the probable looting of his tomb only months after he was buried. I honestly think this is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about King Tut, is that people say that this is the only or one of the only unlooted pharaonic tombs, meaning a tomb of a pharaoh, and that is actually not true. And while I think that people generally know that lots of these pharaonic tombs, including the pyramids, once held huge burial assemblages and were looted, I don't think people also know that these were probably looted within months to weeks to years since that person was buried there. And that's because most of the looters are the people who built the tomb, who decorated the tomb, or even helped bury the pharaohs. So yes, King Tut's tomb technically is one of the most well-preserved, but let me know if you want to know about any of the other ones, like Susenes. So here's an image of King Tut's tomb, specifically pointing out the robbers' tunnels within the different doorways. The tomb was most likely robbed at least twice within a few years of King Tut's burial. I'll go over the specific rooms of the tomb in a later video, but you can see there are various robbers' tunnels here in the first doorway and here in the second doorway. There are also tunnels that get into the both annex and the burial chamber. The first robbers most likely only accessed the antechamber and the annex, and seem to be focused on metal items, linen, and cosmetics. Metal, obviously, for its ability to be smelted down and reused, and linen and cosmetics because it had a limited lifespan, and obviously Tut wouldn't need it. Arguably, he wouldn't need any of it, but I'll digress. After the first robbery, priests and or guards probably fixed up the tomb, resealed the doorways, and they also filled this hallway in between the first doors with limestone chips, probably as a way to deter more robberies, but the second group was worse than the first, probably accessing all 4 rooms of the tomb. They cut entire tunnels out of the chips to get into the main doorway, and then they removed lids of the king's jewelry caskets and unsealed one of the black varnish shrines. Probably about 60% of the jewelry of King Tutankhamun was stolen during this robbery. Interestingly, this knotted scarf full with gold rings was found tossed into one of the boxes in the antechamber, and it may have been thrown by one of the robbers while fleeing the tomb. The tomb was then resealed during the reign of Horemheb, and unfortunately it was still kind of left at a disarray, which is how the archaeologists originally found the place. It's really lucky that they didn't get to take more, because this tomb has given us a lot of insight into how pharaonic burial assemblages were put together. Next part, let's talk about the pharaohs that followed King Tut.